welcome to another episode of Connect with KB. I'm so happy to have you tuning in as we talk about business and education, leadership, and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guests today are among many young professionals navigating the changing workplace. They are both sharing their talents with the Michigan Chamber of Commerce and know that the key to supporting business is tackling big and small issues and being a problem solver. I want to welcome to the podcast Taylor, Kulju, and Annah Duffey from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. So good to have you guys with me.
So good to be here.
You bet.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm going to start with you, Taylor. I want you to tell me the Taylor Kulju story, and then we're going to jump over to Anna in just a minute. But let the listeners know who is Taylor.
Yeah, so the Taylor Kulju story, starring me, Taylor Kulju. A Upper Peninsula girl. I'm from the UP, Ishpeming, Michigan. Met my husband there. He's from Marquette, Michigan, and we met at Northern Michigan University. Proud alum, NMU Wildcat, theater major, communications major, and I'm very thankful for my time there. Love Marquette. Relocated to the Lansing area after having some major time in the nonprofit world in the UP Arts and Culture, Upper Peninsula Arts and Culture Alliance, and the City of Marquette Arts and Culture Center, marketing for them. Came to Lansing, got to meet the wonderful John Zimmerman, my prior boss at the Chamber, as well as Rich Studley, and the rest of the team, and learn everything about the Chamber, and it's been a great experience.
Well, that is really, really neat. You have been a great added addition to the Michigan Chamber. I know that because we've had an opportunity to work together. But I want to jump over to you, Anna, right now. Tell me the Anna story as well, and then we're going to jump into the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, so my name is Annah Duffey. I grew up in Lansing, Williamston specifically. It's a really tiny town out in the cornfields.
You're a Hornet?
Yes, I am. I went to Hope College in Holland, Michigan, and I studied creative writing and communications. I have a couple rough drafts of some books underway.
Good girl.
And I graduated in 2019, so luckily right before COVID, but the Chamber is my first full-time job. I had to kind of bounce around. I was at Jackson National Life part-time, and then the People's Church of East Lansing part-time. And then I came here.
Great. Well, so your work at the Chamber involves what? What do you do there?
Yeah, so I'm the administrative assistant, and I kind of have my hands in a little bit of everything. So I love grammar. I love proofreading, so I help with everyone's proofreading materials across the board. I also do a lot with organizations, scheduling all the lobbyist meetings and things, keeping all their stuff glued together. And I do some of the Michigan Chamber newsletter work, so I do some writing as well.
Well, I know that, writing is such a specialty. And, if you can write well, there's so many transferable skills that you can take to organizations. And I know that it's been a big help to the Michigan Chamber in terms of proofreading and somebody who has a real good eye for that kind of thing. What is it about the Chamber that you like about working there?
Yeah, I like the concept of listening to our members' voices and then getting to bring their opinions together to better advocate for them.
Absolutely. They all have a story to tell, very much like I'm asking you guys to tell me your story, but it's just really interesting and fascinating, the Chamber world, and getting to understand members. Generally, these people are very entrepreneurial, and so they think like entrepreneurs, and they're willing to be creative. And especially in light of COVID, you really had to kind of start to think about operating differently and what the workplace looks like. Taylor, talk about your role at the Michigan Chamber.
Yeah, so I was marketing manager. I recently took on the new role of creative director. So very excited about that in the future with the Michigan Chamber. All things branding and, again, telling our story in a visual way, and, highlighting our members and, just making sure that everybody knows all of the amazing things that the Michigan Chamber has to offer. And, shout out to Anna for her proofing, because she's my right-hand man. Everything that I design and draw up goes through Anna's hands before it hits hits the web.
Well, and you know what? That's a good thing. You know, it's all about kind of staying in your lane. And you talk about being the creative director, and I've seen the graphics that you've put together, and I've had an opportunity to write some things as well and to have Anna proofread that. And I think it's always important for people to, one, just like you're saying, appreciate somebody else's skill set, their teammate, but also to not push yourself to try and maybe do things that are not really in your purview or that your strengths are. When you talk about being involved in so many things, Anna, at the chamber, you know, the role that you have is so unique because you do get to touch so many different things and be a part of, especially, you know, the lobbying community. The Michigan Chamber has such a strong advocacy arm. You know, obviously Jim Holcomb, Wendy Block, Leah Robinson, Mike Alimo, the whole team over there. But there's so many things that the Michigan Chamber offers that are beyond advocacy. And I want you, Taylor, just to share a couple of those things. You just had a Michigan Athena program this week, a lot of opportunity for women in leadership. And so talk a little bit about that and about maybe what's coming up on programming.
Yeah, definitely. Our programming is key. I mean, and, you know, from our diversity, equity, and inclusion series and our economic impact and you know, Athena is our bread and butter. Athena is really like one of our most successful series. We just had a kickoff with Lila Jones, and you know, she was incredible, and it gives an opportunity to really you know, connect women leaders, empower, and we are very excited also because we have Leah Robinson, who is, you know, taking over as program director, young, full of energy. As we say, she's a queen, and
yes,
you know,
Gen Z.
Yeah, just brings a whole new energy. And you know, obviously, she had big shoes to fill, KB, and so yeah, we love her. And like I just said, Athena kicked off, and a great way to connect. All of our signature events, you can check them out at our website, michamber.com/signature events, and find out what's coming next. I believe it's our diversity, equity, and inclusion series is kicking off soon.
Yeah. You know, I have had an opportunity to be a part of the programming. I think it is a real opportunity for people to have professional development when they may have not have had that during COVID. They might have not have had, you know, obviously people weren't going into the workplace. And so it's a real opportunity for people to connect, and especially the Michigan Athena program. I want to ask Anna, and I think you've kind of touched on this just a bit, but how has working at the chamber opened your eyes to how business operates? And, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to understand what a chamber does. And so kind of share with the listeners kind of your perception of that.
Yeah, it's been cool because going into this job, I really didn't know anything about the political sphere, coming from a much more creative background. So just getting to experience the lobbyist team and see the ways that they not only care about member voices, but they directly interact with them on a daily basis, and just genuinely want to care for fostering the best of how we can support them on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And, you know, they are so good at their jobs. And, you know, obviously you don't become the number one voice for Michigan business by not being in the trenches and grinding it out all the time. But when we talk a little bit about opportunities for the members, you know, Taylor, you've done some member spotlights, opportunities to get more into this digital world now. And, you know, talk to, you know, many of your listeners probably are out there, are the listeners here are members of yours. What are some of those benefits that they can take advantage of?
Yeah. So everything that we do at the Michigan Chamber is for our members. You know, we exist for our members, and our members make us look good if they're doing anything that's, you know, interesting. If they are coming up on an anniversary, if they're implementing, you know, any new product or idea. I mean, we want to hear about it. You know, if they have a story, we want to help tell it. You know, we have a Michigan Chamber newsletter that Anna helps write, and, you know, it goes to internally all of our members, you know, 5,000 plus, and then anything external with our social media. You know, we have it all: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, dabbling in TikTok. Might get into TikTok. We don't know.
Nice. But your following is growing all the time.
Absolutely.
How many members or followers do you have now?
Yeah, on Facebook we have over like 10,000 followers, LinkedIn over 6,000 followers, and Twitter and Instagram, those numbers are growing as well. So we've got a pretty good following.
Well, and at the same time, people need to know, and I had John Zimmerman on the podcast months ago, and John's now gone over to Granger. But, you would think at the Michigan Chamber with that kind of following that you would have a really large marketing department. And Taylor, you know better than anybody that it is a team of two. And so, the opportunity to watch the Michigan Chamber continue to grow and to bring on new team members and for you to be able to dive really more into this is really only going to grow the following, but also the opportunities for members as well, and for you to do more of what you're really, really good at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about building your network. And how have you guys been able to do that? I know it was a little bit of a challenge during COVID, but how do you build your network now? Anna, go.
I think the main thing for me has been through social media. There's a lot of Facebook groups now where you can connect with different types of people. So I have one that's women who are interested in the music industry, and one that is just like general Michigan area young adults. And it has everything from connection networking opportunities to volunteer and job opportunities to asking older people in the industries for advice.
Do you have a lot of conversation with your peer network about these things? I mean, do you talk? Are you in the same things? Are you following the same things? Do you talk about it?
Some yes, some no.
Okay.
It definitely varies.
Yeah. How do you do this, Taylor? Are you on LinkedIn a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, social media, obviously, social media is king right now, and we're all utilizing that. I think COVID actually, brought that to light, where all ages, all demographics were understanding the importance of staying connected via social media. So, of course, I'm always on social media. But, the marketing side of me is, market yourself and use those social networks as tools, right? So, even if I'm stuck behind a desk all day, designing a graphic, or if Anna's, working on her podcast, shine a light on that, take a snapshot, share your followers, and brag about yourself. In our Michigan Athena, keynote, Lila said 60% of women have a hard time bragging about themselves and self-promotion. And that's insane to me. I mean, so be proud of what you're doing and broadcast it.
Absolutely. You are spot on. And with that, I'm going to go to Anna, and I want you to talk a little bit about your podcast.
Thank you
You have
so
a platform. You are so welcome. You have a platform as well. And, I've said this a lot, Anna, you have some incredible talent. And to watch your journey, I'm so interested to see. I want you to push this book that you are working on.
Yeah.
You guys are so bold. And I think that that's kind of it too, is not only having confidence and talking about your personal brand, but also these spaces that you're willing to step in and try. And you're such assets to the Michigan Chamber and what you bring right now. But talk a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about it. So thank you.
Good, you bet.
So my podcast is called Entrench, a 21 Pilots podcast. And 21 Pilots is a very popular band who's been around for about a decade. So in my podcast, I go song by song through their discography and analyze their music through a Christian lens. I think through all of it, I want to prove that the band is entrenched in Christianity and the things that they make. And I think a lot of people don't realize that if something's not explicitly worship music, it can still allude to Christianity. And so by extension, allowing people to understand how deeply their music has deeper meaning in faith, they can also then go out and critically analyze the other media that they're intaking. And I think it's important because whether we like it or not, negatively or positively, media impacts us, and what we put into our bodies really matters. So I love getting to be able to encourage people to go out and critically analyze what they're intaking.
That is fascinating. How can people listen to your platform?
I am on Spotify, Apple Music, Podbean, Verbal, and Amazon Music. So any of those platforms if you search Entrench.
Okay, this is great. And Have you gotten feedback from people? I mean, are they listening to the podcast and giving you some feedback? And are you getting into dialogue with the listeners?
Yeah, I have. And I have an email address as well. So I'll have listeners email me and be very appreciative.
Well, let's get that out there too. Go ahead.
Yeah. My email is entrenchpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Well, I hope everybody will take a listen to Anna's podcast as well. I have a soft spot in my heart for other podcasters, and so I want to promote her good work as well. Taylor, tell me what you think you're going to be doing 5 years from now.
That is a difficult question. That is a loaded question. Because I'll tell you why, because I feel as though if you would have asked me 5 years ago, some of the things that I've done in my life, 5 years ago, I would have said I would never live blank. I would never do blank. I would never work blank. And then I find myself in places that are, pushing me and, helping me grow and challenging me. And so I hope that continues. I'm not going to plan out and plot out my next 5 years, my next 2 years. My next week, actually. I'm going to let it come to me. I'm going to let it unfold. I hope I'm happy and healthy and pushing myself and, thriving. Good
for you. And, that is, really, it is important to not get too far down the road, but it's also important to have some goals and to shoot for things and have some ideas of where you want to go and what you're doing. But I appreciate that perspective. Anna?
I would say for me, the main goal is to just cling to creativity even more than I do now and not be afraid to continue to pursue creative things. So ideally in 5 years, if I could have at least one body of work published and or very close to published. And I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel about music and books.
Good girl. You can do this. I have great faith in you. I want you to do this and to push yourself. And you guys have so much talent. What is the greatest advice that you believe you've received that has allowed you to really start to flourish in your careers?
Fail forward, because you're going to fail. So just fail forward. I mean, if I was afraid to do things because, I had the thought of, what if I fail at it? I would never do anything. And so, just throw yourself into it and, commit and fail forwards.
Anna?
Something I love, my dad's always said, it's more of like a perspective thing than advice, but next week you will have a new set of problems, he says. And it sounds negative, but if you really think about that, it allows you to not just dwell on one mistake and to realize that you can keep going, that next week it'll be completely different, and it just keeps you having a longer perspective.
I agree. It's interesting that you might not even remember next week what bothered you today. And so to sometimes take a step back, maybe give yourself the 24-hour rule before you start to lose your mind about something. And, it's going to happen. You get into stressful situations and it's difficult. But if you can just continue, and, I want to ask you guys this question, because it's always about, not having everybody on the team have a hard day on the same day. And, you really need each other and to lift each other up in the work, because it is going to get hard. What's the best thing about working with the team at the Michigan Chamber? Anna?
I think Leah does a really good job of that, making sure everyone's not having a bad day on the same day. And just being able to turn to team members and know that if I'm maybe lacking energy that day, they can give me energy back. That will help inspire me.
Yeah, because you know what? You don't know, too, what they're thinking and the hard day that they might be having, too. So it's good to build trust with team members so that you can talk and be real and you can be supportive of each other. How about you, Taylor?
I would definitely say it's about the team. And I think everybody's valued at the chamber. And I think even if we're younger, I think our opinions and, our thoughts are really valued, and I think they want to hear from us and they want to hear, a fresh take on certain things that they've been doing for a while. And I think I think it's all about the teamwork at the chamber.
I agree. It's a new era with Jim Holcomb there as the president and CEO. Wendy and Bob have been there a long time, but Amanda and Sarah are relatively new. They're on the executive team. You've got some great talent in Leah Robinson, as you just said, now running the leadership programming and doing advocacy. Stephanie Young over there in the role that she's taking on now with MACP. You got a strong membership revenue team. Everybody there, even the people who are behind the scenes, like the Tammys and Sue Garrity's, they are really contributing to the team all the time as well. So, you know what? As we kind of wrap up here, you guys, I want you to talk a little bit about where do you see yourself fitting in as a mentor?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
I think that mentoring is really great. And you're at that place right now in your lives where you can benefit so much from a mentor. But what would being a mentor to someone else mean to you? And, it's a little bit like Taylor and I were talking offline, and I said, I so enjoy having this podcast. And I have people who come to me and they say, thank you so much for having me on. But I'm like, no, thank you for coming on with me, because I'm learning from you as well. So as you kind of continue, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to go by really fast. This career of yours is going to go by fast. So how do you find that sweet spot, and how do you start to mentor people as well? And, sometimes mentoring isn't just necessarily doing it with younger people, that there's an opportunity for people in my demographic to learn from you as well. So what is it that you think that you bring as a mentor?
Yeah, I think for myself, I would say that I'm always open to listening and being a sounding board, and, kind of just sharing what I've been through, and kind of just remembering that it's only a moment in time. So like you said, it'll go by so fast, and something that we cared about, a week ago, a day ago, a year ago, it may not be relevant, in 5 days later or what. So I'm just always trying to be, actively listening. If you got an issue, if you got a problem, if you want some advice, I'm always one to give some solid advice.
I agree.
That's great. Anna?
I would say encouraging others to pursue their passions. With my podcast, I literally just started with my phone, and I just started doing it, and now I have more equipment, and you don't have to feel like you have everything together to start something you love.
Absolutely. Jump right in, because, it's kind of like a fly in the plane. What's the old adage about learning to fly the plane while you're flying the plane, or something like that? So yeah,
that's terrifying.
to be bold and to step into new things. I want you guys to know how much I appreciate you. I so appreciate what you do for the Michigan Chamber, but I appreciate our friendship as well. You guys are great assets, and I'm going to continue to watch your journey. And if I can ever be of help to you, I want you guys to reach out to me. All right?
Thank
Kristin.
you.
You bet. You guys, my guests today, Taylor Kulju and Annah Duffey from the Michigan Chamber. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Downing Industries, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, Public Affairs Associates, and Mercantile Bank. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belzer.